excited this morning to hear from George Huffman, a member here at St. Matthew's who shares his gifts in many, many ways. And so will you welcome George Huffman?
Thank you. I should say we're blessed to have Chelsea as one of our leaders. I think when she came, she couldn't have imagined simply telling Daniel, get out of here and we'll take care of it. I'd like to start this morning by remembering the service and sacrifice that Veterans Day honors. When I was a kid, it seemed like a pretty institutional thing, but as I've gotten older, I've come to realize it's very personal. So I would encourage you to remember the particular current and past members of the military who you know or have known personally. Please pray with me. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. So how many of you remember Pat Paulson? He's a comedian during the 1970s. Yeah, okay. So maybe you remember one of his routines started, the time has come to speak boldly of S-E-X. I was tempted to do that with stewardship this morning, but I figured by the time I got to the end of such a long word, my time would be up. So I'll just settle for saying that the stewardship of time, talents, gifts, and service can be a delicate topic. Why is that? Both of this morning's scriptures can be viewed as having the same theme, namely that even if you start with something small, you can move toward a mighty result. You can probably think of some other similar stories. For example, there was a time in the temple when Jesus saw a widow putting a copper coin in the box, and he suspected that was all she had. There was another time when Jesus was teaching in a remote place, and it got to be supper time, and a little boy offered his few fish and loaves of bread, and the multitude was fed. The challenge in these stories is that small things are frequently a huge sacrifice for the people of modest means who were giving them. In the case of the mustard seed, this tiny little seed had to become something entirely different in order to fulfill its role. So it's easy for us to look at these stories and say, well, you know, that's not me. I've got to be practical. So what are some of the practicalities? You have to pay your mortgage and put food on the table and all the other expenses that come with living in the Washington area. Your schedule is completely full. You can't imagine taking another hour on Sunday morning and attending a class. Another practicality might be that you don't feel like you have the skills to sing in the choir or edit the circuit rider. And this list goes on, right? And yet, the challenge at another level is for us to think about what you can do, not measuring it against what somebody else can do, but what you can do. If you run or if you talk to people that run, after a while the phrase personal best comes up. The idea is that most runners know they're never going to win the Marine Corps Marathon, right? But they can look at how they're doing this year compared to last year and think about how they might do better next year. I have a friend who is a pretty good triathlete. I can't imagine doing that, but he's good at it. He's like national amateur good. A couple of months ago, he crashed his bike on a race. He got pretty mangled, broke an arm, broke his collarbone. He's all skinned up. Fortunately, he had on his helmet, so it didn't hurt his head. He's just now getting back into training. And I can guarantee that in his first triathlon after this, he's not going to do his personal best. But what I can guarantee, because I know him, is that he's going to get back into it. He's going to start where he is and go on from there. I think the biblical understanding of stewardship is like this. The things that you can give or do might look small, like running your first race after you get mangled, but you're called to do what you can do here and now, personally. Jesus says that the life choices you make end up reflecting and governing what you consider important. And you know the traditional phrase, where your treasure is, there also will be your heart. Where do you want your heart to be? The challenge in the stewardship season is to stop and think about how you can move toward your personal best to make things happen that you want to happen. Is your giving level where it should be? Do you need to start participating in some mission project? We heard one this morning. When your contribution, whatever its form, however large and small, is joined with the contributions of those around you, amazing things can happen. Now, this brings up an important point. This discussion of stewardship is taking place here in the context of St. Matthew's United Methodist Church of Bowie, Maryland. There are lots of charities which you can and maybe do contribute. There are lots of worthy community activities that make the world around us a better place. But among all these possibilities, you are called to be an active and contributing part of the Christian community in which you find yourself here at St. Matthew's. I think we all carry around this concept of the church universal, which reflects the will and mission of God. And if I were on a TV show, we would cut to the video of angels singing and blowing trumpets. But we also know that the universal church actually gets reflected on earth as churches. Churches which are filled with opinionated, stubborn people that have their own opinions. It would not surprise me if your mind is already wandering to some glaring examples of this. Anyway, the point is that you have a lot of choices, and you're here at St. Matthew's, this particular physical congregation where you are. It's worth remembering what being here means. So, for example, you're part of that church, which is next to the high school, visibly reminding the community of God's presence and inviting the community in to be part of the activities. Being here at St. Matthew's means you're part of a community that challenges you to worship and to learn. This community prays with you, rejoices with you in good times. We support you when times are tough, and St. Matthew's involves you in potluck suppers as often as we can find an excuse. Being here at St. Matthew's also means that we have opportunity to be God's hand in the world. On a local basis, that means things like gifts for the children of prisoners, taking the Christmas shift for warm nights, rotating monthly meals for the PG County Men's Shelter, sponsoring the EEC, and providing transition housing. In the larger world, we support mission activities in Central America and Africa, and working through UMCOR around the world. The list goes on. This could be a whole separate discussion. This morning's scripture challenges each of us to think about what we can do now personally and what things we might be doing to align our hearts with God's work and to forward his work here at St. Matthew's. You are not asked to give everything. You're asked to give what's right for you. You're not asked to do everything. You're asked to do what's right for you. And you're not asked to know the right answers on day one, or even day a whole big number. But you are asked to think about stretching your definition of the right answer. Sometimes stretching to the right answer might mean contributing to the mortgage retirement fund above and beyond your normal giving. Sometimes stretching to the right answer might mean saying yes when you're asked to be on a committee, or heaven forbid, even volunteering to be on a committee. It happens. It could happen for you. Recently for me, stretching to the right answer meant saying yes when Daniel wondered whether I would be willing to talk about stewardship on November 10th. In this stewardship season, the question that I leave you with is, what stretching are you being asked to do today? Amen.